Hey everyone, welcome back to Relatively Credible. Well, it's going to be a bit of a big March for Disney, isn't it? Because the first launch of, is it a launch or sailing of the Galactic Starcruiser will be happening, and to say it's got a lot of buzz online, I think is a underestimation.
It's crazy right now. The hype and the feedback and all the comments and confusion. It's crazy.
We'll go over some of it. I'm not really a Star Wars expert. I know they're building a lot of the backstory. It seems that they're releasing parts of the backstory. Originally, when they announced the Halcyon, as it'll be known, this space cruise ship, it didn't really have that much of backstory. It was kind of its story in itself. And then it seems over recent weeks they've been releasing little snippets like how Han and Leia had their honeymoon on there, and also Anakin had his honeymoon on there. So they're adding in some of the IP elements, and I wonder whether that was an afterthought or whether this has been their plan all along, is to kind of drop these little story elements in there. I'll just state my view on it. I think it's going to be one of those things where Disney are going to... It's going to be much better than people are expecting it to be. I think the price of it, the investment that it is to go there, is what I think is the crux of what a lot of people have concerns about.
100%. Yeah, I mean, they've even talked about how, the price is 100% the drawback on this one. People have actively been talking and comparing it to the price of an actual even Disney cruise, which is already more expensive. And it's much more expensive than even just a regular Disney cruise.
I've heard that comparison against the Disney cruise ships as well. And I think the Disney cruise ships are definitely trying to encourage a lot more people on there, aren't they? Because they have definitely they really got affected big time during COVID, as with all the cruise industry, of course. So they are definitely incentivizing people to go on. Well, let's just talk about the pricing. If anybody's not familiar, what this essentially is it's a Star Wars themed hotel, but they are pitching it as a fully immersive experience. So in the world of the Halcyon, as the name of the ship is called, you'll be arriving at a normal hotel, but from then everything is fully immersive. And the story behind it is that actually you will be descending up to a cruise ship in space. It's set roughly between the old films and the newer films. Rough timeline, I know that's very vague, but the similar characters have crossed over. And then essentially you'll have this 2-day cruise, as it's being called, where they will let you into Batuu, into Galaxy's Edge, will be part of the experience. For 2 guests, you're looking at $1,209 per guest per night. And that's for a total voyage cost of $4,809 because it's 2 days. 2 days for 2 people. It really climbs up if you're a family of 4, though. You're looking around $6,000. And these are times where there was... I know a few people pointed out, well, these might be the off-season times. It looks like there's going to be some variance in the time frame. But I don't know if I'm a big enough Star Wars fan, or whether I enjoy that fully immersive LARPing experience, as people are calling it.
Yeah, definitely. That's what it is. I mean, everything I've read about it is, you stay on the ship. It is supposed to be, a cruise-like experience where you're going to be fully immersed, from the way you're going to dress and act and interact with things, all the way to what you eat. They're thinking about your complete, morning to night experience on this experience. So I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan either. I like it. I enjoy the plot and the story, but I definitely it has its drawbacks to me. But for the most part, I think if you are a Star Wars fan, I don't think you're going to get really any other experience like this.
That's the thing with it, isn't it? Because if you're a big Star Wars fan, even if you're a fan of anything, so if you're a Lord of the Rings fan, Harry Potter fan, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, if you're a fan of the Marvel universe, if you're a fan in general of anything like this, I can't think of another totally immersive experience. I mean, for Harry Potter, you can go and see the original set. Obviously, they've got the Harry Potter, very well executed Harry Potter lands in Universal and Islands of Adventure, but it's
Yes.
not a fully immersive experience where you're actually at Hogwarts and you're wearing the clothes and everything and you're part of it. Whereas this is, I can't think of another hotel experience like this. I mean, maybe some of those murder mystery hotels that you see, but
Yeah.
for a 2-day fully immersive experience, if you are a huge Star Wars fan or a fan of everything, I think you've got to step back and really think about it from that level, because I can't think of another experience that is really like that.
I can't either. Yeah, I mean they're talking about you know, being a part of the story as much as anything else, to the point where, you know, if you misbehave, there's going to be, you know, big name characters that could potentially come after you. You're going to be as immersed within the Star Wars storyline environment as anything else that I've read about or heard about. So it is, I think, probably a pretty fair comparison to say like Murder Mystery Dinner or Murder Mystery Hotel and or like LARPing, but it's going to be, you know, 48 hours straight of being fully immersed in this, which some might love and some might have some concerns about.
Yeah, and the it's not just us here or the Disney forums that are mentioning about the price. Even the mainstream press, I think, were slightly surprised about the actual cost of this once they released it, because even some of the premium hotels at Disney, the ones, you know, the Grand Floridian and a few of the others that are a significant investment to stay at, you could stay almost an entire week for those type of numbers.
Yeah.
Now food's included and some drinks, I understand, but it's not a lot of the alcoholic drinks. There's a themed bar there, and I've heard some of the other criticisms of this being that immersive experience was how Galaxy's Edge was supposed to be, where the cast members were all playing out a story, a narrative during each day was the same narrative that they were playing out. I think some elements of that may have stayed, but you certainly don't get the impression that that is what's happening, and that it was supposed to be a dinner show, sort of like a pirates dinner show type thing that was Star Wars themed, which would be immersive. But then they've opted to go this route with the entire hotel. I don't know what your opinion on this is, but even if I was a huge Star Wars fan, so obviously I'm a huge fan of different things, but once you've done it, is it a one and done, do you think? What would they have to do in order for you to maybe come back year after year or come back every other year?
The only thing I think that they could do is, it'll probably be such a fantastic experience that you'd want to come back, but most people won't be able to afford it to come back again. The only other thing that I think they could do is potentially give people, you know, major discounts for coming back a second time. The, you know, $5,000 price tag for two people is pretty steep, and I don't really know people that would want to go at this alone. I think it would be an experience that you'd have to enjoy with a group or as a couple at a minimum. So a $5,000 expense for this fully immersive Star Wars experience is definitely, I think, a one and done experience for most people, even major Star Wars fans. I mean, it could be, to your point, where they do have alternative storylines, but I don't know how they're going to do that unless they do it every other year, every 2 years, every 3 years, whatever it is. And then that could potentially draw people back if they are changing the storyline or, you know, the whole overall experience. But they're not really going to make updates to the storyline or how they're experiencing and interacting with this experience. I don't foresee that people would be able to come back because of at the price point it sits at.
Seeing some of these images of the rooms, they look really cool, but more than a more than a couple of people have pointed out online that these beds certainly, the beds that look the coolest, certainly are only an appropriate size for young children, probably up to 10 or 12 before you get the growth spurt when you're a teenager. They look the rooms, and I get the impression that certainly you're encouraged to stay out of the rooms. There's the whole hotel is windowless because each of the windows is essentially a TV screen or a projection that is showing you in space. So that in itself is going to look cool. But I wonder whether you're just going to want to go outside, because where it's placed is that there is no outside space. Where the actual Galactic Starcruiser building is, the show building, I guess you'd call it, it's back of house at Hollywood Studios.
Mm-hmm.
There isn't a way to... There's no outside space. There's no seating outside. You are literally inside for those 2 days, with the exception of your excursion to Batu, which we'll talk about in a little bit.
The one thing that I've heard that they are going to be doing potentially is an environment simulator. It's part of it as well, is that if you're not going to be able to go outside, but supposedly they're going to be able to simulate the outdoors that you're used to. So I don't know what that entails, if that's going to be like, pumping in oxygen in a specific area or something like that to feel like more fresh air. But supposedly they have accounted for that, the idea of you're going to be stuck in this place for extended amount of time, and you're not really going to be able to get fresh air when you need it or when you want it. So I think that they're adding some sort of, environment simulator that's supposed to help with that.
And I guess definitely if you're a smoker or you're into your vapes, where would you go for that? Like, how would you go if you were really, getting the shakes because you've not had a cigarette or whatever, and you're stuck inside and they certainly will not probably allow smoking in the show building, I'm sure, but I guess they would have to factor that in. And I don't know whether for me, I can only speak for me. Especially when I go to the parks, I love going for the rides. I love going for the food. I don't often gravitate to the experiences where I have to be involved in it. So I think that Monsters Inc. Laughter Floor is funny, but I wouldn't enjoy being one of the Stooges or one of the where you have to play along a character. Or I don't like to go to anything where I might be pulled on stage to do something, like like some of the parks that have these immersive experiences. So I don't know whether... I don't think I personally would enjoy having to play a character and then interact with other people as if I'm the character, and they interact with me as if I'm that character. I don't know whether that would like weird me out when I was at the bar and they'd be like, "Oh, welcome back. You must be part of the resistance." I'd be like, "Oh, can I just have a Sprite, please?" I'm a bit awkward.
I'm
like
the
that.
same way. I don't know if I'm the audience for this, but I think if I was to go with a group of people that were really into it, then I might become into it. But naturally, I don't think I'd want to participate in many of these things either.
Yeah, I think if you had friends that were really into it, or children that were really into it and they understood what was going on. Whereas, I think if I was like, "Oh, where are the restrooms?" And they're like, "Oh, you mean the evacuation portals? They are over." And we're like, "Oh, come on, dude, just trying to."
Yeah, I'm with you.
Just trying to, and I feel, and I don't know if you were a cast member in there and you were having to play this over and over again. I mean, you'd have to really be into acting, and you'd probably really have to know your Star Wars lore, because there'll be... This is designed for super fans, and there'll be a lot of super fans on there, and I'm sure they'll definitely either try and catch the cast members out on some of the knowledge, but they'll certainly want to interact at a different knowledgeable level, won't they, with them? And I wonder how that's gonna play out.
Better start flexing that improv muscle for sure.
I'm sure everybody that goes... I know there's been sparse details, and a lot of the internet is filling in the blanks, so to speak, but is Disney, and I can only imagine that it's going to be an amazing experience. And we'll find out soon, because the first voyage is coming up in 5 or 6 days, I think. And there's certainly been some, cast members that have gone on there and had great experiences. So we'll have to follow this up, Spencer, after we start seeing some of those early reviews.
Yeah, maybe we can even get somebody who's gone on it to then report back to us. That'd be great.
Yeah, that would be great. If you're going to go on it, let us know. You can reach out to us on email. As always, we appreciate watching, and we'll see you next time on Relatively Credible.